What are you afraid of? And that's when it kind of sunk in. You know, in rock climbing, the first thing you have to do is understand the difference between rational fear and irrational fear. Rational fear is you're doing a climb and a lightning storm comes in, and you know, you better get off that climb because there's a very real possibility you're going to die. Irrational fear is just fear of falling. Now, I climb with a rope, so if you fall, the rope is going to catch you, but it's still kind of scary. But here's the thing that's totally paradoxical about rock climbing. People who are scared of falling and never really push themselves to the point where they fall never become good climbers. The best climbers in the world are the people who fall the most frequently.
What are you afraid of? More importantly, are the things you're afraid of really that scary? Are you afraid of snakes, spiders, or insects? Or are you afraid perhaps that your spouse is leaving you? Or that your business is going to go bankrupt, or you'll die of COVID. Okay, enough about COVID. But yes, fears do exist. But have you ever asked yourself, can that thing I fear really hurt me that much? There are two basic types of fears that you might have. One is a rational fear, like standing on a golf course holding one of your clubs in the air after you have just swung it during a violent thunderstorm. The other is an irrational fear. An irrational fear is a fear of failing or falling while you're climbing a sheer high cliff, even though your rope will save you from harm. What do you say? That's an irrational fear? Yes, it is an irrational fear if your name is Dr. Harry Adelson. You see, Harry was a world-class rock climber before launching his practice. Harry knows from his personal experience not to be afraid of falling off a cliff because his safety rope will save him, as it has countless times. You now know two of the three concepts in this unique 10-minute talk. The third concept is stem cells. Does that strike you as a logical fit? It is for Harry, who was one of the earliest adopters of the use of stem cells for the treatment of chronic pain. Harry has performed over 7,000 bone marrow stem cell procedures, and he's the inventor of the full body stem cell makeover. He's achieved this amazing success and position in his field because he was able to recognize the difference between rational fear and irrational fear. Now you'll know how you can differentiate between the two as you listen to his talk titled, "What Are You Afraid Of? How You Can Climb Your Highest Mountains." Please welcome Dr. Harry Adelson.
Thank you very much, Timothy. Thank you, guys. So as Timothy said, when I was younger, my entire life revolved around rock climbing. You can say the reason I went to naturopathic school was so I'd have something to do when I wasn't rock climbing. As I was wrapping up my first year of naturopathic school, I was training for my dream trip to France, the birthplace of modern sport climbing. And I was training in the gym, and I did this hard cross-through move, and I felt this revolting pop in my shoulder. And I saw a surgeon, and he said, "I can put a scope in there and cut away the piece of torn cartilage. It's going to help you in the short term, but it's probably going to cause you problems later in life. Alternately, I can give you a steroid injection, which will do nothing to cure the problem, but it'll give you temporary relief. It's probably going to actually further degrade your connective tissue." And I thought, those are my choices? I mean, I was 25 years old, I was in excellent health, and I was in naturopathic school. So naturopathic philosophy is based on 6 guiding principles, the first of which is the body's natural healing response, the healing power of nature. So I started asking around in my community, and I was introduced to Rick Marinelli, who was the first naturopathic doctor to perform something called regenerative injection therapy, also called prolotherapy. Regenerative injection therapy is the injection of natural substances directly into the damaged tissue to effectively trick your body into thinking that it's undergone a new injury, thereby launching the body's natural healing response. In the early days, we used dextrose, which is simultaneously nutritive and slightly irritating, and then over the years, we started using platelet-rich plasma, which is from your own blood. Well, I did that for a number of years, the first really 10 years or so in practice, and I was very happy with it. Well, then Laura came along in 2009, and Laura, I had helped her to a certain point with her bad knee pain, but I couldn't quite get her beyond that point. And she came into my office and put down a stack of papers on my desk, and she said, and the papers were scientific studies, use of bone marrow stem cells for the treatment of arthritis, mostly in animals, because that's what we had back then. And she said, Harry, I want you to inject stem cells from my bone marrow into my knee. And I said, Laura, I don't know how to do that. And she said, so learn. And I said, Laura, I know a guy in St. Louis who does it. You can go to him. And she said, I don't want your friend to do it. I want you to do it. I said, Laura, I'm a naturopathic doctor. Do you know how much criticism I'll get if I start doing bone marrow aspirations? And she leaned forward and she said, Harry, I'm a materials engineer for NASA, and I'm a woman. So if you want to complain to me about people telling you you're out of your league, I'm afraid you're talking to the wrong person. So I found an orthopedic surgeon who was willing to teach me how to do bone marrow aspiration, and here's a little secret, it's not that hard. And it worked so well that I knew that's all I wanted to do.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying this video, and I want to let you know that I have a new book that's come out, and if you'd like to get it absolutely free, there's a link below in the description, or you can wait till the end of this video, or you can simply go to joesfreebook.com and you can get a copy there.
Well, similarly, Gary came along, and I had been treating Gary for years for his low back pain. But I just couldn't quite help him with this midline pain, worse bending forward. And I said, Gary, the issue here is you need stem cells injected directly into your intervertebral discs. And he said, okay, when do you want to do it? I said, no, Gary, you don't understand. I don't do that. I know a guy in Texas who does it, and you have a private jet. I'll go with you. He said, I don't want your friend to do it. I want you to do it. I said, Gary, do you have any idea how much criticism I'll get if I start doing X-ray guided injection in intervertebral discs? I'm a naturopath. I'll be the first. They'll call me a quack. And he said, oh, they'll call you a quack. Ooh, that sounds pretty bad. By the way, have you Googled Gary Young lately? For those of you who don't know who Gary Young is, he's the founder and CEO of Young Living Essential Oils, which is a global multi-billion-dollar corporation selling essential oils. This guy has so many detractors. If you go to Quack Watch, there's a dedicated button to Gary on their homepage. So I realized how ridiculous I sounded, and Gary leaned forward and he said, what are you afraid of? And that's when it kind of sunk in. In rock climbing, the first thing you have to do is understand the difference between rational fear and irrational fear. Rational fear is you're doing a climb and a lightning storm comes in, and you better get off that climb because there's a very real possibility you're going to die. Irrational fear is just fear of falling. Now, I climb with a rope, so if you fall, the rope is going to catch you, but it's still kind of scary. But here's the thing that's totally paradoxical about rock climbing. People who are scared of falling and never really push themselves to the point where they fall never become good climbers. The best climbers in the world are the people who fall the most frequently. So I learned how to do X-ray guided injection, and here's a little secret, it's not that hard, and which allowed me to inject intervertebral discs and basically any other part of the human body. So in the early days, because very few people had heard of stem cells, my patients were Wyoming cowboys, which seems strange, but it's because they had these expensive workhorses that they wanted to continue working, and there was a veterinarian in Wyoming who was doing bone marrow stem cells on horses. And these guys would see how well it worked, and they would say, can't you just do it on my low back and my neck and my hips and stuff? And the guy would say, no, I can't because I'm a veterinarian, but there's a guy in Park City who does it, you can go to him. So in the early days, I was getting these busted up ex-rodeo cowboys and I would do these huge treatments. I'd do their whole spine, and I'd do both hips, and I'd do both knees, and I'd do both shoulders. And half jokingly, I was calling it full body stem cell makeover. Well, then this guy became a patient in early 2016, and you all know Dave Asprey. His goal is to live to be 180, and so I started getting his followers in, people who are much more interested in sort of longevity. And one such follower was this guy named Tariq. And Tariq said to me, Harry, can't you just inject my whole body in one sitting, just kind of for preventive purposes? And I thought, yeah, actually, I can, because I'd been doing it for years. It really was not that big of a jump. So that was the birth of the full body stem cell makeover. I do it with my partner, Amy Killen. About half the people that we see actually do have arthritis throughout their entire bodies. The other half are people who are doing it just for preventive purposes. They don't have arthritis everywhere, but they never want to get there. So first we do a lipoaspiration. We take fat from the love handles. Then we do bone marrow aspiration. We take about a half liter of bone marrow from the iliac crest. We isolate the stem cells from the fat. We concentrate the stem cells from the bone marrow. We activate the stem cells from your blood, and then we supplement in with exosomes. This process takes about 45 minutes. Once we have the cells ready, then we start the injecting. And by the way, people are asleep. We have anesthesiologists, so people sleep through this entire thing, so there's no pain involved. We do epidurals in the low back, the mid back, and the neck. We do the facet injections at every level of the spine, from the base of the skull down to the tailbone, both sides. Then we flip the person over. I do the shoulders, the elbows, the wrists, and the thumbs, the hips, the knees, the ankles, and great toes. While I'm doing this, Amy is doing the scalp to thicken the hair follicles. She does the face to improve elasticity and hydration of the skin. And lastly, she finishes in men with the penis and women with the vagina to improve sexual function. Yeah, so the picture that I started the talk with is, in the last couple of years, I've gotten a little self-conscious about using it because it's like a 20-year-old picture. So this last May, I actually went back to Bishop, California to get on that same climb that I did 20 years ago. And on that trip, my 5-year-old was doing this route, and it was her first arête, and an arête is an outside corner. And what makes an arête interesting is, normally you sort of just have the wall in front of you, so you don't really see the ground, but with an arête, you actually can see down to the ground. It's a lot more intimidating. So she would sort of like make a couple of moves, and then I'd hear her, and she'd go, and then she'd make a couple more moves, and you'd hear this. And she came down, and I said, "Baby, were you a little bit scared?" And she said, "Yes, Daddy, I was a little bit scared. But I would just tell myself that it's okay to be a little scared sometimes." And this is how I felt. I have succeeded as a father. I can go to the grave with a clear conscience, knowing that I have left the world a better place than I found it. You guys, that's my email. If you ever have any questions about stem cell medicine, if you're thinking about going local, if you're thinking about going international, I know the industry inside and out. I'd be happy to be a resource to you. Thank you so much.
Come on over here, climb this great wall. Boy, was that good.
Yeah. Thank you.
You got a can for you and the kids.
A can of whoop ass.
Oh boy, I got 7 great things for you. There was no question after the introduction what we're going to talk about. Fears, and then planted the stem cell as an idea of a teaser. What's that about? How does that have to do with this? And then, by getting those 3 things out, irrational, rational, and stem cell, the audience was with you. And then one of the great things about having a wonderful introduction for you when you speak is, he then said as his first words, as Timothy said, Timothy did the bragging. You don't need to tell people all the things you do. The introducer does it, and that's just what happened here, and we were all with you on that. And then the examples of Laura with the picture of the person there, and then the humor. Jenny, did he do a great job on the humor? And she said to me, well, I said, I don't know how to do it. And then she said, learn. Now that is not a joke. But the way he said it made you laugh because you were not expecting that. So that was terrific, Harry. And then the quack thing was so good. One suggestion only, and this is a great one for you. When you have an aha moment, repeat it. Let me say that again. When you have, that's just what I'm doing. When you have an aha moment, repeat it. So when Gary said about the quack, and then he said to you, what are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? And say it again to them. The best climbers fall the most. Let me say that again. If you want to be the best at what you do, you got to fall the most. Okay, that's the power of repeat. The slides were timed so perfectly. And then you threw in the vagina and the penis. Got everybody in Genius Network into it. Those are the magic words. Joe, did you hear that? Okay. And then the closing with his daughter. And what was the key to that? It's okay to fail. And my Genius Network friends, it's okay for you to fail, but you didn't fail. Great job, Harry.
Thank you. Thank you. So you're in the presence of a leader on the planet in this methodology and this procedure. And of course, Harry can't mention all his patients, but he mentioned Dave Asprey, who he's allowed to mention, and other people that have been public about Harry's support have been Dr. Mark Hyman, who's the leader of the functional medicine clinic at the Cleveland Clinic and a 13-time, maybe 14 New York Times bestselling author, Mind Valley founder Vishen Lakhiani, my dear friend Jim Quick, and probably a lot of other big names that you can't talk about. But so you're with a leader on the planet and also a vulnerable human being, which we always appreciate, right? Are there any questions in the room? Yes, thank you.
So if you're just getting like one body part done, like the shoulder,
Hold that up to you.
does that require being put under all the way?
We like to put everybody to sleep because the lipoaspiration and the bone marrow aspiration are very painful. And there's no reason to be awake for it. I don't need your help.
Thank you.
Yes, Jim Do.
First of all, to hear Joel use the words penis and vagina, I mean, when you turn 80, the wheels come off, you're like, the hell with that. You're going crazy. What you showed, the full body for more for maintenance or for improvement of health, not for any damage. What's the recovery after something like that?
Okay, so this is the thing, is to watch that video, and it was about a minute, 30-second time lapse. That is like normally a 3-hour procedure. To watch that, it looks like the Spanish Inquisition. And you sort of like, when I get visitors to come observe it, they think people are gonna wake up in like writhing pain, and amazingly, they don't. People wake up feeling just fine. They're a little sore where we took the fat, they're a little sore where we took the bone marrow, but with, almost invariably people feel great when they wake up. Plus they're a little bit stoned from the drugs and the ketamine and stuff. So that's part of what, part of the reason we started sedating everybody. And I'll just sort of tell you guys this because I think this is applicable to Genius Network. In the early days, it was optional. I would give people, I'd say, either we can put you to sleep, it's an additional charge, or you can, just stay awake for it. And people, for whatever reason, they would say, oh, I don't want this doctor to think I'm a wimp, or like, oh, I'm going to save a little money. Well, those people, the people that stayed awake, when I would call them like 6 months or a year later to follow up, they'd say, hi, this is Harry Adelson in Park City. They'd say, oh, hello. Like obviously pissed off at me. And I'd say, oh, so how are you doing? Oh, it didn't work. Oh, really? Huh? Can you go up and down the stairs? Yeah, I can. Oh, because here it says you couldn't go up and down the stairs before. Oh, yeah, but I started doing yoga and I'm pretty sure that's what did it. And finally, I figured it out that the people that I sedated never had that reaction. Even if I didn't help them, they never sort of had this angry reaction. So I said, I'm just going to try to include it in the price and then see how that works. And two things happened. Immediately people were relieved because there was one fewer decision that they had to make. And secondly, even the people that I don't even necessarily help were happy to talk to me because these people had such a negative, painful experience, they just that framed the entire memory.
Interesting. Thanks, Harry.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Just a quick question. Could you explain to me exactly what's happening when you inject the bone marrow, and then how it heals and what that feels like?
Sure. So this is based on the premise that most chronic pain is due to causes in the microscopic tissue changes. So it's not even so much what you see on MRI, but like the collagen matrix loses its elasticity. You get like overgrowth of blood vessels and then sensory nerves. So there are these changes in the soil, really. I mean, it's the difference between being a mechanic looking to replace or repair individual parts and being a gardener and looking to like tend the soil. So what stem cells do, we have stem cells in every tissue in our body, and their goal is to maintain the health of their microenvironment. And any type of tissue healing after injury is a stem cell mediated event. So essentially what we're doing is we're picking out the area where you've experienced suboptimal healing, putting stem cells there. The stem cells then recognize they're in the presence of damaged tissue and relaunch an acute healing response. So you get all the benefit of a healing response without actually having been injured.
Awesome. Let's just look. So there's a lot. Here's acknowledge. Yeah. There's way more questions than we can get to. I just wanted to see in our online group if there's a question. We're going to take one.
We do have one question, Michael. Yes. It's from
Awesome.
Genevieve Boss.
Okay, great. Let's do that.
Hi, Genevieve.
Sorry, I'm muted. Hi, Harry. I love your presentation. I'm a big fan of what you're doing, and I've already had stem cell therapy here in Atlanta for a frozen shoulder, and I'm just sharing this with the membership that in 24 hours I had 90% of my motion back in before I could barely even put my clothes on.
That's great.
And then 3 months later, 100%, and that was one injection. So for what it's worth. So I'm already a believer and a fan. One thing that I've not seen available in the local market, and I'm curious, I'm curious about facial rejuvenation, right? We all want to feel great. We also want to look great. So what kind of options do you have now, or do you expect to come around the corner that we can, it's great to be 180. You don't want to look 180. So please help.
Sure. So my partner Amy Killen does the facial injections, and the idea, it's exactly the same as what I was just describing with treating a musculoskeletal structure. There's sort of like three elements to skin aging, right? There's the lines of facial expression. Well, stem cells don't really do anything for that because that's like creases in the credit card, right? And then there's loss of volume, which stem cells don't really do much for that either. But then the third thing is this loss of elasticity and hydration. So when you inject stem cells into the skin of the face or the hands or the décolleté or whatever it is, what we're doing is actually triggering the growth of new collagen, increasing the elasticity and hydration of the skin, and therefore, and that's something you cannot achieve with Botox or filler. So, when people have this done, they usually say, "Oh, you look really well rested. Are you sleeping better?" It's not sort of this like dramatic thing like you've had a facelift or something like that.
Is that something you can also inject under the eyes instead of getting filler under the eyes as you get older?
It works very well for the dark circles, because those dark circles is from capillary fragility. You're actually leaking blood out of those little capillaries, so you get like an accumulation of iron in there. That's what's making it look dark. So when we inject in the face, a lot of times it strengthens those capillaries, and therefore like those dark circles disappear.
Well, what if I can get like 50 women to come on a bus on a 747?
Bring it on. Bring it on.
Can we get a package deal? Just
absolutely,
get us done?
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And I will just say in closing, if you guys are interested in learning more, I have a Nick Nanton film, which is right on the homepage of my website, Doceri Clinics. There's a link to it. It's free to watch. I also have a book that's free to download that's on the website. So just docericlinics.com. If you want to do a deep dive, there's enough to last you a long time on there.
The film is fantastic, called The Stem Cell Solution. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's amazing.
Thank you, Nick Nanton.
Are you here the rest of the afternoon?
Absolutely.
Okay, so you'll have access for those other questions. Maybe set up a Zoom or something afterwards, to either with a group or individual support.
Sure, and I'll look at the comments too if you want to email in a comment. or text into the comment.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank
Amazing.
you, Michael. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Okay, I hope you found that video awesome and useful. So if you want to get a free copy of my book, I want you to click here. And if you want to watch some more videos that'll be useful and awesome, click here. Go ahead. They're over here. Do it now. Come on. Thank you. Watch them.